I actually asked you on Twitter and I tagged you about this and you answered, but I remember being confused. So I'm like, oh,
Okay.
if I ever get to talk to him, I'm going to.
I don't remember. I'm horrible.
I know you've got a lot going on Twitter. There's a lot of. I'm sure you get tagged a lot. But okay, I asked about. I thought it was odd that of the 3 perpetual virgin goddesses, Hestia is one, the goddess of the hearth. And I thought that was odd because the hearth is the center of the home for women. Well, for everyone, but like
right.
for women. So that's why I and you actually answered, but I just...
You wonder why I answered what I did. Okay, I remember now what I answered.
Okay.
I mean, the idea is that... So the idea would be to understand the center, right? The let's say the ideal meeting of heaven and earth. If you idealize it, you actually have this idea that I don't know how to explain it. It's like in order for the feminine to fully manifest everything, that's where the idea of virginity comes from. And so in Christianity, we take it to the extreme, which is the Virgin Mother. And so she is perpetual virgin, but she's also a mother. And so because of that, she's actually the mother of all, because she remains untouched, you could say. So she remains the matrix underneath the world, right? And so the hearth, which is the center, you can understand masculine and feminine as like heaven and earth, as like 2 categories like this. But then when you have a mountain, let's say, or you have a center, you have a category, then you can understand the category as a center. And the center is made out of a masculine and feminine element. So let's say in the temple or in the tabernacle, you have the seat, the throne of God, and then you have the glory of God, which sits on the throne, right? If you look at an icon of Christ and his mother, you'll see often he's sitting on her lap, and she is called the throne of wisdom, right? And so she's the throne, and he's the glory of God on the throne, right? The image of Christ on his mother's lap is an image of the Ark of the Covenant with the glory of God on it. Okay, and so the idea is that the center is made out of the frame and the name, or the answer, the question and the answer, the opening of space and the manifestation of space.
Okay, so the virgin represents the potential of could go anywhere.
Yeah, so yes, exactly. But you can so you can understand it as, so the ultimate feminine is unbounded potential, right?
Okay.
So it's Tobo, it's Mara, it's the chaos at the beginning of time, right? It's the first separation of heaven and earth, right? But then there's also a framed version. So there's a universal question, which is there going to be something? Like, is there going to be something or nothing? Like, you could say that it's like the universal question, is there going to be something or nothing? And then there are framed questions, and then those become more like the home. So but you can represent it in its virginal state, because that's the frame. So you can say
why does the home want to be framed in the eternal potential?
No, but it's just different aspects of the feminine. And so potentiality is potentiality, but there's only one unbounded potentiality. It's the only one. And then there are different levels of potentiality depending. So like there's the potentiality within basketball, right? So the potentiality within basketball is the frame of the game. And then within that frame, then certain things can happen. But a pickup truck can't participate in a basketball game. That potential is not available to the basketball game.
Okay.
Right? And so everything has a frame, has a limit, has things which delimit its reality. And then within that reality, the discourse can occur. So, I mean, I use basketball, but I could use anything, right?
Okay.
So you can represent that as a virgin if you want. Like it can be a way of manifesting that. So the hearth, the center of the home. So you have the hearth and you have the fire in the hearth, okay? And so you would say that Hestia is the goddess of the hearth. So she's the goddess of the space in which the fire burns, which lights the house, but then also becomes the center. So the identity, the frame of the identity, and then the identity, the manifestation of the identity, or the particular of the identity.
Okay.
Does that make more sense?
Yeah, it just brings up, like, I'm like, oh yeah, the Vestal virgins who had to attend the fire for their lives. Like they literally became what you're describing figuratively.
Yeah. So an example in Greece is there's a great example. The example of the what's her name? Delphi.
The oracle at Delphi.
So the oracle at Delphi is a perfect example. So the oracle is a woman, and so she receives this like raw intuition, right? She receives this like raw, we don't know how she got it, we don't know what she did, but she received this like raw intuition, and then she would say a bunch of stuff. But the people who came to ask the oracle for information would never meet the oracle. They would meet the priest, because the oracle would speak to the priest, and then the priest would take that potential and then would focus it for an answer to give to that person.
Oh.
So the priest would always interpret the oracle for the person coming to ask the question. So if someone came with a question, there would be two parts of it. One would be this like raw potential mixing up of the soup or of knowledge or whatever, and then out of it would come a bunch of associations, and then the priest would focus that to answer the question.
Okay, so he'd bring order from the chaos of her potential.
But it's framed chaos. It's not pure chaos. It has a certain limit. It's just like so all forms of divination are that. So you take a bunch of bones, you throw the bones and then they fall. So there's this like chaotic weird thing that manifests some intuition or some associations, but you need someone to interpret it. Without it, it's nothing, right? You need both.
Okay. Just
like in scripture, you have the tongues where people say a bunch of stuff, but in scripture it says if you don't have an interpreter, then it's pointless.
Okay.
Lots to think about. I'm trying to find all million of analogies to help.
No, it is. No, it's one of those things where it makes sense, all the things you're saying, and I just need to think about it more.
It's also hard to think. It's hard for us to think that way because we're not used to seeing the world that way, and so it's difficult sometimes for us to kind of you can intuit it, but it's all of a sudden your rational mind comes back and says, well, that's not how things work. Like that's not.
Well, absolutely. I feel very deprived of being from a Protestant background.
I'm from a Protestant background. You'll do fine.
But with regards to the feminine, it's just Mary is really devoted.
Yeah, for sure. Protestantism is extremely masculine.
Mary was very important.
Yeah. So she got really pushed to the forefront for you.
Yeah.
But then in the Protestant space, it's it's really just down.
Yeah. Well, not just Mary, but also the fact that Protestants removed the apocryphal book, they also removed the whole wisdom of Solomon part, which is this kind of discussion which feels like it's God talking to his kind of cosmic consort, or this idea of this sacred, this divine feminine or something. We're not supposed to say it that way, but it's there's really is this thing happening in Wisdom of Solomon. There really is this relationship, which got a lot of theologians into trouble recently, but there's still something there going on. There's still something there.
I will have to take a look.
Yeah, you should do that.
Okay, the margins. Mercury.